Glory to God. We continue from the book of Saint Paisios the Athonite, Spiritual Counsels, with pain and love for contemporary man. And we are in the chapter The Church in Our Times, the Clergy and the Church, Confronting Ecclesiastical Issues. Yeronda, what is the right way to confront difficult ecclesiastical issues? That's a main question for many times and for many people. What is the right way to confront ecclesiastical issues? And Saint Paisios answered, we must avoid extremes. Extreme solutions will never solve a problem. In the old days, the grocer would add little by little with the scoop on the scale until he got the exact weight and the scales were balanced. This is a very nice example. In other words, he didn't add or remove large amounts abruptly. Extreme positions always cause suffering for our mother, the Church, as well as for those who hold those positions, because an extreme stance has a way of nailing people into place. It is like having a possessed person full of spiritual insolence and contempt for everything, pulling on one end, and a narrow-minded fool, zealous in his ignorance, pulling on the other. This is a confrontation, in other words, between a foolish zealot and a man steeped in spiritual arrogance. The two bicker and strike at each other, never agreeing, because what is missing from both is divine grace. And the worst that can happen, God forbid, is that there will be no end to their bickering. Each side will keep on striking the other, back and forth without end. But those who can take the two sides, bend them and bring them together, help them come to an agreement, will be crowned by our Lord Jesus Christ with two unfading crowns. We must be careful not to create problems in the Church or to magnify the small indiscretions that take place here and there, because this only makes things worse and gives pleasure to the devil. The person who gets overly upset and angry at the sight of a minor mistake and rushes head-on, supposedly to put things in order, resembles the foolish sacristan who sees a candle dripping during worship and rushes head-on to put it out, knocking over people, and candle stands in his way and causing an even greater disorder. Unfortunately, we have so many people keen on disturbing our mother, the Church, these days. The educated among them have grasped dogma with their minds only, rather than with the spirit of the Holy Fathers. The uneducated have grasped the dogmas with their teeth, which is why you hear a lot of grinding when they discuss ecclesiastical matters. As a result, they both cause greater harm to the Church than the enemies of our Orthodox faith. It is good if a river's current is not strong, because strong currents sweep away logs, rocks, even people. But a slow, shallow river is not good either. It is a breeding ground for mosquitoes. Then there are those who spend their time criticizing each other instead of working for the common good. Instead of keeping watch over themselves, they look for mistakes in others. They are on the lookout for what others say or write, just to strike mercilessly at them. They just want to be proud and to show themselves, to have vainglory, and only to beat the others. And so they make a lot of problems in our mother, the church. However, these same merciless people claim, St. Paisios says, that if they were to speak or write about the same exact topic, they, of course, would have used a great many references from sacred scripture and the fathers to support their work. These people cause great harm because, on the one hand, they do injustice to their brothers and sisters, and on the other hand, they undermine them before the faithful. In fact, many times they sow unbelief in weak souls because they scandalize them. Those who justify their malice on their supposed rightful inspection of others instead of themselves, or by publishing ecclesiastical issues, even those matters too sensitive to discuss, on the pretext of tell it to the church, should begin first with their own little church, their own family, or their own brotherhood. If that appears to be in good order, then they can go ahead and ridicule the mother of the church. Good children, I believe, never make accusations against their mother. The good children never accuse their mother. They love their mother and cover the mistakes the brothers do. Everyone is necessary in the church. Everyone offers his service to her, no matter what his character is, mild or strict. The body of the church is like the human body. Just as we need both sweet and sour foods, even bitter herbs, because each food has something to contribute in vitamins and other nutrients, so too, for the body of the church, every one of us is indispensable. Each person complements the character of the other, and all of us are obliged to tolerate not only the spiritual temperament of others, but also their human weaknesses. Now, unfortunately, there are those who have irrational expectations from other people. They expect everyone to have the same spiritual temperament as their own. And if others do not coincide with their personalities, if they are a bit more lenient or more severe, they immediately conclude that they are not spiritual people. So we have to love our mother, the church, and to work, first of all, in ourselves. to be cleaned from the passions, and then to take care of our own little church, as St. Paisios says. Maybe our family or our brotherhood, but first of all, of ourselves. And St. Paisios continues about high office and vainglory. I wonder how some people can attach so much importance to human glory rather than the glory of God, which awaits us when we shall depart from the glory of men. In what way will we benefit if we gain the highest office and the admiration of everybody? Will such admiration lead us to heaven or to hell? What did Christ say? I do not receive glory from men. We have to hate the glory from men, from people. We have to admire and to try to achieve the glory of God. How, St. Paisios says, will it benefit me if from being a monk I became a priest monk, bishop, or patriarch? Would these offices help me save my soul, or would they be a burden on weak Paisios and send me crashing down to hell? If there were no next life, perhaps we could find a way to justify such nonsense. But he who seeks the salvation of his soul does not seek high office. He counts all things as rubbish in order to gain Christ. As the Holy Bible says. Moses, in spite of being delegated by God to free the Israelites, was not deemed worthy of going to the promised land because he had become indignant with God on account of the people. For years, he lived with their continual grumbling, and only once did he become indignant. They are asking for water, he said. Where am I supposed to find water for them? What do you mean, where? Only a few days ago, you struck at the rock, and water gushed out, and you gave them to drink. Was that so hard to do? But he was so tangled up in the concerns of his people that he had forgotten how much water had been provided earlier. And with his mind overwhelmed, he didn't realize his mistake so as to ask forgiveness from God. Had he asked, it would have been granted to him. So God gave him a small canon as a reprimand for his indignation. He would not enter the promised land. God, of course, received him in paradise and honored him by sending him with the prophet Elijah to Mount Tabor at the Lord's transfiguration. This example of Moses should help us understand that the responsibilities of high office can be a great obstacle in the Christian's journey to paradise. So we have to avoid high office, as the holy men did. There are some people, St. Paisios says, who, because of their inner and outer life, should have been filled with happiness, who, despite having been delivered by God from every kind of responsibility, but who nonetheless seek responsibility and offices. And when these are not given to them, they stew, wearing out their soul and their body, the temple of God, as St. Paul refers to it. Christ is preparing them for the glory of heaven, but they choose to enter paradise through human glory. Perhaps someone might object, why is it that some people are glorified in this world and afterwards are also glorified by God? The truth is that those who seek human glory will never be glorified by God. We should never go out of our way to be given more responsibilities. Instead, we should rejoice when we are relieved of them, because they bring all kinds of worries. If we are not content, it means that pride is working secretly inside us. We should never pursue offices in order to receive glory, because that reveals the advanced state of a diseased soul. It shows that we are marching in a sick state, on a path other than that of humility, the path on which the Holy Fathers walked to paradise. If we want to walk to paradise, we have to take the path of humility, not the path of high offices, of vainglory. So many of our Holy Fathers avoided the responsibilities of high office. They did not wish to become an abbot, a priest, or a hierarch. Some went as far as mutilating a hand, a nose, an ear, or a tongue to be disqualified from ordination. Others were ordained when the roof of their locked cell was removed, or ordained from a distance, in absentia, like Saint Amphilochios. These were educated and holy men, but they had felt deeply the great worth of the soul and the burden placed on it by worldly responsibilities which stand in the way of salvation. So they would do anything to avoid them. In this way, they kept themselves on the right path. Even on the Holy Mountain, there are monks who view priesthood as an obstacle to the spiritual life. And the reason is that, in addition to their usual responsibilities, if they were priests, they have to be present when a bishop pays a visit or attend various feasts and celebrations outside the monastery, which may be spiritual in nature, but still do not bring peace to one's soul. When I was at the Cenobium, St. Paisios says, I met a diacon who grew old and died as a diacon. When he was still a young monk, the monastery needed a diacon and so ordained him. Later, younger monks arrived. While they became diaconus and priests, he remained a diacon, giving his turn to everybody else. He avoided to become priest. When they urged him to become a priest, he would say, "The monastery does not need more priests. God be praised, we have our younger brothers." Later, he was assigned to the administrative office. When educated monks joined the monastery, he asked to be relieved of this duty, and he was. When the monastery was going through rough times, this devout diacon pleaded with a virtuous priest to accept the position of abbot. His answer was, "How is it that you avoid responsibilities but place a full load on me? If you become the supervisor, I will become the abbot." And that's actually what happened. When the troubles were over and the monastery returned to normal, he once again gave his resignation. "This diacon helped me a lot," says St. Paisios. It was a very good example for him. He was, St. Paisios says, full of God's grace. When the Holy Community of the Holy Mountain had difficult matters to resolve, they always called on him to get his enlightened opinion. He was a very holy and very wise man. Geronda, what drives spiritual people who have no interest whatsoever in money to go after glory? Is the ancient Greek saying still true? Money has been despised by many, glory by none. Is it true? And St. Paisios answered, "It is their empty heads that drive them. It is all about vainglory." The saying, "money has been despised by many," etc., fits the temporal, secular spirit. It has no place in the spiritual life. Ancient Greeks thought that way because they did not know the true God. Honors of any kind have no place in the spiritual life. Honors of any kind have no place in the spiritual life. Has anyone suffered more indignities than those suffered by Christ? The fathers asked for dishonor, and God instead honored them. These people are still in a temporal stadium. They play football and cheer the home team. Pauk, Ark, Doxa, glory. When we read about glory in the Gospel, it is a glory that is full of love and humility. It is the real glory, the glory of God. Father, the hour has come. Glorify thy Son, that the Son may glorify thee. And this is life eternal, that they know thee, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom thou hast sent. What Christ was asking of God was to allow people to know their Savior and be saved. But today, all that most people care for is how to acquire honors and recognition. They look for glory here and glory there, and in the end, it is folly they find. Folly here, folly there. This is what Christ meant when he said, "How can ye believe who receive glory from one another, and seek not the glory that comes from the only God?" Vainglory is the great obstacle for spiritual life and for acquiring the great glory. And St. Paul says, "But evil men and seducers shall wax worse and worse, deceiving and being deceived. These things make my stomach turn. I could not survive in such an environment, even for 24 hours." Responsibilities can be a great obstacle to the spiritual life. Those who want to do spiritual work should stay away from them. Usually, those people who pursue high office and supervisory posts do not have a good end. That personal element, egoism, gets in the way, and then supervisors clash and fight with each other because both sides suffer from egoism. But those who work with Philotimo, who do not comfort their egos, but involving themselves in every little thing or single job, are those who help in a positive way. This is the only way that peace can come to the souls that need help and to those who help them, a peace for this life and for the life to come. In the old days, the Holy Fathers would first leave and go to the desert. There they strived to desert all their passions. Without any plans or designs of their own, they put their lives in God's hands and avoided high office and authority, even when they reached holiness. Only when our Mother, the Church, needed them, did they practice obedience and accept God's will, glorifying His name with their holy lives. These men acquired a good level of spiritual health in the desert, where they lived on a good spiritual diet under the vigilant supervision of the Fathers. They became, in other words, a kind of spiritual blood donor. They first cleaned themselves, and then they were able to clean others, to enlighten others, because they have acquired the real light, the light of our Lord. The Orthodox Church, St. Paisios says, has always been administered by synods. It is in the Orthodox spirit for the Church to be administered by synods, and for monasteries by the assembly of elders. Decisions are reached jointly by the archbishop and the synod, and by the abbot or abbess and the assembly of senior monastics. The archbishop is first among equals. That's very important, and we have always to remember it. We have no pope in Orthodoxy. And the patriarch, St. Paisios says, is not a pope. He and the other hierarchs have the same rank. That's very important to remember always. It is the same rank for all the hierarchs. They have the same rank. The Pope's rank is different. He sits up high and others kiss his feet. But the Patriarch sits together with all the other hierarchs, and his work is to coordinate. It's not a supervisor of all. He has the same rank as all the hierarchs. This is also the relationship between an abbot or abbess and the members of the assembly of elders. The abbot or abbess is first among equals. An archbishop or an abbot cannot do whatever he wants. God enlightens a hierarch or an elder on one issue. He enlightens one about the other. You see, this is like the four evangelists who complemented each other. Here, too, in the assembly of elders, each person will state his opinion, and if someone disagrees, his dissent will be recorded in the minutes, especially in cases where a decision is contrary to the commandments of the gospel. Those who disagree should have their dissent recorded. Otherwise, it will appear as if the decision was unanimous. If this person signs the document without recording his objection, he has actually done wrong and stands to blame. But if he makes his opinion public, even if the majority disagrees, he will be in good standing with God. That's the very important thing. To have to be in good standing with God, not with people. When the synod of the assembly of elders does not function well, then we may say that we have the Orthodox spirit, but it is the Papist spirit that is at work. We may say that we have the Orthodox spirit, but it is the Papist spirit that is at work. When the synod of the assembly of elders does not function well. The Orthodox spirit says that each and every person has the right to speak and register his mind. No one should refrain from speaking out of fear or in order to flatter a superior, or because he wants to be on good terms with the archbishop or the abbot. When clergymen enter church administration at a young age, even if they are qualified, it is to no purpose. They will be harmed. They will get caught up in the wheels of administration, of clerical work, and so on, and will not receive spiritual assistance, even though they may have great potential. Some men, especially, would have become great assets to the church had they worked on their spiritual lives rather than wasted their potential. When we are not concerned with ourselves in the good sense of the word, when we do not work on ourselves, we are like merchants who buy and sell merchandise without keeping an account of how much they owe, until they end up bankrupt and in jail. I feel really sad when I hear of young priests working in an office, St. Paisios says. If they had been kept out of administration a while longer, they would have become a great help to others later in life. We have to wait and not to rush to high offices. But unfortunately, it happens quite frequently, St. Paisios says, that young and inexperienced priests are appointed to administrative posts rather than older, experienced priests who could have done a lot of spiritual work and benefited their flock. This creates double the harm. What I am trying to say is that before they have had the time to attend to spiritual work on themselves, and before they have acquired any spiritual wealth, young priests take on responsibilities, finding themselves in demanding posts. On the other hand, older priests who have valuable experience and are enlightened are not placed in positions of responsibility and do not get the chance to offer their services. That is a great fault, of course. Gerunda, when the divine liturgy is celebrated, should there always be someone who will receive Holy Communion? And St. Paisios answered, yes, because that is the main purpose of the divine liturgy, even if only a few are ready. All the prayers refer to the faithful who will be receiving communion. For this reason, it is important that there be at least one person who will take communion. Of course, once in a while, there is no one. But that's beside the point. At least someone, even a small child, a baby, should receive communion. And when no one is available, then it is only for the priest to receive communion and commemorate the names of the living and the departed. But this should be the exception rather than the rule. We get to live through the events of the New Testament at every divine liturgy. The Holy Prothesis, table of oblation, is Bethlehem. The Holy Table is the Holy Sepulchre, and the Crucifix is Holy Golgotha. All of creation is sanctified by the divine liturgy through the presence of Christ. It is the divine liturgies that sustain this world. What God has given us is so awesome, and we are so unworthy of it. There are priests who live this awesome mystery at every divine liturgy. A priest once told me that a very simple and good priest used to say, I have such a hard time during the catalysis, the consumption of the holy gifts at the end of the divine liturgy. My filthy tears fall into the chalice. I cannot contain them, and this makes me so upset. And he started weeping. So the other priest said to him, "Please, Father, ask Christ to grant me even a few of these filthy tears." Γέροντα, why do you step down from the Stasidion when the priest says the prayers of preparation before the iconostasis, right before he enters the holy bema to put on his holy vestments? We have to explain Stasidion or Stasidia is a church seat with arms in order to support the arms of those praying while they stand in church. It has two positions, reclined and semi-reclined, like a tall stool. And they asked him why he stepped down from his Stasidion, St. Paisios, when the priest is says the prayers of preparation before the iconostasis, right before he enters the holy bema to put on his holy vestments. And the saint answered, "I stepped down because at that moment, as the priest is praying, God is sending him divine grace to rid him of his weaknesses and allow him to celebrate the divine liturgy. At this time, the faithful should also be praying with reverence, so that they may receive grace. The divine liturgy begins with the proskomidi, the service of preparation, oblation of the holy gifts. It is amazing how God sometimes allows us to understand and experience the holy mysteries. When I was the Ecclesiasticos, something happened to me. Once, as the priest was cutting the prosphoron, the offering bread, and saying the words, "As a sheep he was led to the slaughter," I heard the quivering of a lamb on the holy discarion. And again, when he said, "Sacrificed is the Lamb and Son of God, who takes away the sin of the world," I heard the bleating of a lamb coming from the holy prophecies. How awesome! This is why I tell priests not to prepare the proskomidi ahead of time and then do the rest symbolically. In other words, they should not cut the prosphoron earlier and then, when the moment comes, simply place the amnos, the lamb, upon the discarion. Rather, they should be making the actual incisions on the prosphoron as they are saying the words, "As a sheep he was led to the slaughter." They should take the lance and sacrifice the lamb the moment they say, "Sacrificed is the Lamb of God." Here we see that the holy men, the saints, can explain us what is happening, because they have this experience, what is happening in the Holy Liturgy in every time, during their prayers, their prayer to God, and during the holy prayers, the prayers of our Mother, the Church. When the priest rings the little bell at the time of the proscomedy, and you are silently commemorating the names of people, your heart should participate in the pain of every soul you mention, living or departed. You should bring to mind all the different problems faced by people, and then turn to those that you specifically want to mention and say, for Maria, for Nicholas, Lord, you know their problems. Please help them. The names that people give you should be commemorated during several divine liturgies. You can do 3 liturgies for some, 5 for others, and 1 for all of them. Why should some names be commemorated at all times, and others, who may be in more need, not be commemorated at all? That's difficult for me to understand. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and so forth should not be commemorated at the holy prophecies. We cannot take out a portion for them or commemorate their names. What we can do is pray for their health and enlightenment, and even read the supplication service, praying for them. Yeroda, some priests say that they would prefer not to celebrate the divine liturgy very often. They do not want it to turn into a routine. And the Saint Paisios answered, this is not right. A priest should not be making such statements. It is like saying, I do not visit my relatives often because I want them to miss me and give me a warmer welcome when they see me. Of course, it takes preparation to celebrate the divine liturgy. Holy Communion heals and sanctifies the person who struggles. But what help can it be to those who make no effort? If we do not try to change ourselves, how can Christ come and change us? Once in the cave of St. Athanasius, there lived an elder with 2 monks under his guidance. One was a hieromonk, priest monk, and the other a hierodiakon, diakon monk. One day, the 2 monks went to a chapel to celebrate the divine liturgy. The priest was envious of the diakon and disliked him intensely because the diakon was smarter and more capable than he in every respect. But the diakon also did not help the situation with his rather arrogant manner. The priest was prepared, he had done all the necessary things, he had read the preparatory prayers for Holy Communion, and so on. But unfortunately, he had left out the most important preparation, the internal preparation. He had not humbly confessed in order to expunge the malicious envy from his heart. Things that will not go away by simply changing our clothes and washing our face. And so, being only externally prepared, he approached the awesome and holy table to celebrate the liturgy. And then, guess what happened? Suddenly, as he was starting the proskomedy, he heard a loud noise. The discarion moved away from the prothesis and disappeared. The liturgy could not go on. My mind tells me that, given their psychological condition, something terrible would have happened if God had not intervened. Γέροντα, if something happens during the divine liturgy, can it be interrupted? No, St. Paisios answered. It cannot. When the divine liturgy is in progress, the priest cannot interrupt it, no matter what happens. Even if war is declared, he has to complete the liturgy. Even if the enemy is surrounding the church, the most he can do is hurry up and finish. God will help him finish, but one must trust in God and not be afraid. The celebrant of the Lord must be most watchful, poor and exacting. This is because priests stand higher than angels. The holy angels cover their faces during the mystery of the Holy Eucharist. But it is the priest who, with his face uncovered, celebrates it. That is what I wanted to tell you today about confronting ecclesiastical issues and about high office and vainglory. It is from the book of St. Paisios, with pain and love for contemporary man. We have to work in ourselves, to work spiritually, and to be cleaned from our passions, so as to help our Mother Church and to help others. First, we have to be cleaned so as to be enlightened from the Holy Spirit, and then, as the Holy Father says, we can help the others and to confront the ecclesiastical issues and to stand as the Lord wants us to stand in every case. We can stop here, and if there is some question, we may discuss about what you want.
Thank you very much, Father, and thank the Paisios, Saint Paisios, for all the wisdom he's left us. I mean, it's incredible that this man has exhausted almost every subject that one seeks answers for. If they run to his books, they can almost find answers to any question they have. It's incredible.
Glory to God, and thanks to God for his great help through St. Paisios. He gave us in our century.
I have a few notes jotted down, and we're waiting for any possible questions that will come in through the chat room. Now, you mentioned about the high offices, that in the church it's dangerous for people to go very fast. in the high offices, and especially if people are young and new to the faith. In this day and age, we're experiencing exactly this. You see, maybe it's also the pace of life. Maybe it's the access to information, the speed of technology. People can learn about the Orthodox faith rationally, intellectually in their mind. So many catechumens and or people in seminaries, people that are studying, they elevate fast. The people above them, they determine that these people are learning quick, so we can make them a priest, or we could baptize them very quick and maybe make them chanters, servers, acolytes, hori, and all this happens very fast today. I remember when I was younger, just a kid, and I wasn't very active in the church. 25, 30 plus years ago, it seemed to me that things were a little more slower. And now, everything just happens very fast. Do you want to give us some words of advice, according to St. Paisios, of course, with the catechumens and the converts coming to the Orthodox faith? We have a big phenomenon in America right now where a lot of people, especially young men, are coming to the faith, and it's incredible in many ways. It's unseen before here, this many people coming so fast. And we see people getting baptized very fast, within 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, a year. Catechism is basically just reading a book and having a few conversations with the priest. And many of these people eventually become candidates, maybe for leadership in the church. Do you have anything from the Holy Fathers you'd like to share with us about this? And if I can ask also, according to this, can somebody serve in the church, like to assist in the actual liturgical life, if they're not baptized, or if the catechumen, like, can they serve in the choir? Can they chant? Can they help with Andidaron? Can they help with the holy icons? Can they do activities in the church if they're not baptized?
Yes.
If they're just catechumens or recent converts?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, the canon of the Holy Fathers is that we serve in the church when we are baptized, and we have responsibilities when we have enough time in church, not just as we are baptized immediately or very soon to take responsibilities and high office in the church. We have to wait. First of all, we have to learn, to study dogma, and of course to be to decide to go away from the bad manner of life before baptized. That's very important. We know from catechesis of Saint Kyrios of Jerusalem that it may have a time of 3 years. It may take maybe 3 years to hear catechesis before someone be baptized. 3 years to study, to learn, to read, to hear, and of course to clean his life from sins, from bad habits, and to go away from occupations that are not have a sin. For example, somebody could not enter catechesis, could not be catechumenus, if he was an actor. He has to stop this occupation so as to start catechesis, to become a catechumenus. That's very important. That's the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, which gives us this canons. It's obligatory to repent before being baptized. We have to change our life, to repent, to go away from every sin, to confess all our life, and of course to study, to learn the real faith, the Orthodox faith, to accept all the dogma, and then to be baptized. You see, the bishop in the time of Saint Kyrios examined the catechumenus, the people who were under catechesis, and then he gave his okay so as to be baptized or not. Maybe he said that you have to continue. So it's a very serious thing, the most serious thing, the most important thing, to be baptized according to the Holy Fathers, to the Holy Canons, and not to be in a hurry. And after baptism, of course, as St. Paul says, or the newly baptized people has to wait to live according to the new faith and to the holy canons, not to sin, and little by little to take responsibilities in the church, not to rush in high offices and to responsibilities in the church. They have to learn to be humble and not to try to acquire vainglory. They have to learn humility and obedience. That's very important. And the people who are humble and obedient, these people have to take responsibilities in the church. That's what the Holy Father says. That's the answer, I think.
May be blessed. Thank you. You were reading about the holy prophecies and the reading of names on the Discarion, and when they get commemorated during the service for Holy Communion. Somebody shared an incident with me where they wrote down the family names to commemorate, and they went to a church they had never been before. This church was, I think, maybe the priest or some of the people in the church were zealots, maybe a little too strict in their views in certain things. So when the ladies submitted the names, they were all Greek names, old people born in the 30s, 40s, 50s. The priest said, I can't commemorate these names because I don't consider this generation of people orthodox. So the names were rejected, and the person was left questioning, why are my names rejected? What would you say about this such incident? Can somebody make a claim like this to reject names of baptized Christians?
Sorry, I didn't understand why the priest rejected the names. Because they were, he was not sure if they are Orthodox.
The names were Orthodox, and the people are baptized Orthodox, but I think it seems to me that the priest did not consider that group of people Orthodox enough. I think he was considering that they're that generation of people, maybe they had a bishop who was modern or modernistic, so they didn't want to commemorate the names. To me, it seems like this was inappropriate behavior to reject names that are baptized.
He was a zealot. He was not in the church, in the canonical church. He was in a schismatic church.
This I don't know exactly, but I know that the priest is like very, he has zealot phronimata. I think they're very strict and they're very critical, and they accuse, they find problems a lot of times, and this sort of thing.
Yes, so we have to be careful where we go to find out exactly what is the priest, who bishop he commemorates. We have always to go to the canonical church, not to schismatic churches. That's very important. And then to ask like this. The first task is what is the bishop, what is the church, and who is the priest, and who is the bishop of the church we go. If he's normal, if he's canonical, that's the most important to examine. That's my answer.
Thank you, Father. We have Kyrios. You can ask a verbal question.
Ευλογείτε, Γέροντα. I have a question which doesn't concern the issue, if you don't mind. It's a question I've been asking myself a long time. As far as I know, the Lord got crucified Friday noon, and he left in the afternoon Friday. And on Saturday, the Mirophores wanted to go to the grave, and they meet this gardener, who's actually the Lord, who is already risen, which is not even a day. And we say he has been risen after 3 days. This 1 day and 3 days difference, how is it being counted?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, of course, it's not about what we have said. You can find the explanation in Saint Nicodemus. It is because the Jews counted the day from the time of about the Vespers for us, from afternoon. So if we count like this, we find the 3 days. He was crucified according to the gospel, and counting the days, we find 3 days. You can find the explanation in Saint Nicodemus. Now I will have to find this chapter and to read, so as not to make a mistake. But as the Jews counted the time, it gives this the 3 days. It's not a whole 3 days, but it is 3 days as the Jews counted the day, every day. It is some hours from Friday, then is whole Saturday, and some hours from Sunday. There's some hours from Friday and some hours from Saturday. It is for Jews 1 day. 1 day Friday, 1 day Saturday, 1 day Sunday. That is the 3 days. But you can read exactly in the Saint Nicodemus.
I've been forwarded a concern regarding something related to the subject when it comes to confrontations, like it says in the title, ecclesiastical confrontations. When these things take place in our day and age, we're having a lot of confrontations with betrayals, with issues, with many problems. I mean, we have our own passions and we have our personal sins, but then we encounter many issues that go on in the church. Parents that have children, we're speaking of adult parents who are mature and they have some experience in the faith, and they know some things regarding these betrayals, and they have the ability to try to kindly and humbly correct, or maybe to speak, not necessarily to correct, but at least to address, to approach the person or the priest or the representative who's doing something inappropriate. How can they address the issue without scandalizing people who have maybe a lower level of knowledge on the subject, such as their children? So if the parents, sometimes they're afraid to speak or to address some issue that's going on in public or in the church, because they're afraid that the children are going to get the bad impression, and then the children are going to become very judgmental and critical, and they're going to think negative of the priests all the time. How can they manage this dilemma?
I didn't understand well, but I think we have to be very careful and not to say something before we are sure about what we are going to say, about the truth. And we have to ask holy men and men who have discretion, so as to know and to say things which are real and according to the Holy Bible, the Holy Commandments. We cannot say something for an ecclesiastical issue very easily, because many things are complicated. We have to know very well Holy Bible, Holy Canons, and so the safer for us is to ask men, holy men, who has discretion, and to have the right answer for every ecclesiastical issue, and then to tell something to people who have ignorance. If it is appropriate, if it is good for them. Maybe it is better to say nothing. We have to pray, of course, so as to be enlightened from God, if we have to say something or not. We have to be humble and not to rush to say, to have a stand in every ecclesiastical issue, because we don't know in many times what is happening. We have to wait, and always not to rush to do things or to say things about an ecclesiastical issue. We have to pray and to ask, again I say, holy men, so as to have a good answer to an ecclesiastical problem. The most important, of course, as St. Paisios says, is to work in ourselves, to be cleaned from our passions. And then we will be able to help our mother, the Church, and to help others.
Amen. That's very, very important. Very important answer. I think we have a question written here. You know, Father, this subject, these sort of ecclesiastical affairs and these things that happen, could we say that in this day and age, because of the technology, and we have a lot of these reports and news agencies, ecclesiastical websites, it almost seems like it's a temptation from the evil one also to want to distract people all the time, to keep people outside of themselves, so that they're always occupied with what happened over here, what happened on this island, what this bishop said today, what the next bishop is going to say tomorrow. And then the person, they can't even pray. They have so much distraction and anxiety, and they're so upset about what's going on that they lose their peace.
Yes, that's, I think it's a great problem. And we have to avoid to examine everybody and not to examine ourselves. The first, we have to watch ourselves and not to watch the others, the bishops and the clergy and our brothers. We have to work in ourselves and to be cleaned from our passions, to desert us from our passions. And then the light of God comes to us. And then we can help the others and our mother, the Church. That's the main thing.
So our sister Maria asks, I wanted to ask why many people in the church use names of holy people, holy famous people, to get the attention of believers in preaching. Since what the saints say is from the Holy Bible, why do we not get the source of knowledge from the Bible? Is it because we don't understand the Bible ourselves? we have to go through the saints. And then she says there are many saints who are not famous, and we don't have books from
them. The Holy Fathers speak according to the Holy Bible. So it is the same. We have the Holy Tradition in the Orthodox Church, and Holy Tradition has inside it the Holy Bible and the Holy Fathers. And that's why we use the Holy Fathers, because they explain and we can understand better what the Holy Bible says. Of course, we can use also the Holy Bible, but it is maybe sometimes more easy, and it is more clear for us to understand better what our Lord says, or what St. Paul says, if we use the readings, the writings, of the Holy Fathers. We have to know that the Holy Bible and the Holy Fathers and the Holy Liturgy, all the liturgical texts we have in our church have the same Kyrios, how we call it, are very important, have the same importance. We have to know it. Holy traditions. Tradition is not only Holy Bible. We have the Holy Canons, we have the Holy Fathers, we have the liturgical texts, the hymns, all these writings and hymns for the Holy Saints. We have the Church for the great feasts of our Orthodox Church. All these are precious, are very important, so as to understand our faith and to speak and to write about ecclesiastical issues and any problems and anything about our faith. It has the same worth, the Holy Fathers and the Holy Canons and the Holy Bible.
I think our friend that asked the question, they just want to clarify something, maybe for a little bit. We'll open the microphone. You can go ahead.
Thank you so much. I want to ask a thing, because I listen only Irish Paisios, Irish Porphyrion, and now I'm in a Russian church, and I have learned about Ἀγιορείτου, and there are many Agi, and we don't talk about them, and they have books also. I was wondering why we have to use only Irish Paisios. It's so popular. I appreciate him, but I want to listen more. More people that they help the church so much. I use in Kyrios is so important person, and I have never listened for him so many times. I listened only once in one speech that Father Savvas made, and I was wondering why we don't listen another. Only Paisios. I want to listen more. Θέλω να ακούσω και άλλους Αγίους. Αυτό το αναρωτιόμουν. Γιατί μόνο μιλάμε για τον Άγιο Παΐσιο. Αυτό, this is my question.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
Little by little we speak from others holy men. And time we don't have a lot of time, a little time we have. We have now Saint Paisios, maybe in other homilies, or to use another Holy Father.
May be blessed. I've heard this before too, and some people, they always wonder, why do we use the recent saints when we do synaxes, catechisms? But maybe you can do a homily for us someday to talk about the Χρυσή αλυσίδα. They say that the saints are a chain that connect. So when we learn from Geranda Paisios, we also learn from the other saints automatically.
Yes. If we read the Holy Fathers, we will see that all the Fathers says the same thing, with other words. We use Saint Paisios because he's very near to us. He lived in the same time with us, and he knows very well the problems of our century. But if we read deeply, we will see that all the Fathers, the Holy Fathers, say the same things about the problems and about the spiritual struggle.
I think we can close with our friend here, Kyrios.
Thank you. Actually, it's not a question. It's a proposal. Perhaps you can do some speeches about the history of the church. Because when you read some books, it might not be the truth. The development of the church from the beginning until now, and the big steps and the big, like the schisma and why it happened and what happened afterwards. Perhaps then, I think when we know history, we understand better the present, where we stand. And I think, like me, and other people don't know too much about the history of the church from the beginning until now. Thank you.
Yes, of course, it's a good idea, very good idea. We can try also. But you see, we have not so much time to say everything. It's very important to know the history of the church, especially for our brothers who are converts or want to convert from Catholicism or from Protestantism. If they read the history, they realize very well why the real faith, the real truth is the Orthodox faith. Yes, of course. Thank you.
It's a good suggestion.
Yes.
And we have one more friend, David, who also makes the same suggestion. So, God willing, in the future, we can coordinate something.
Okay, yes. Let be blessed.
Thank you once again, Father. Your blessings and your prayers, please.
I also thank you for your presence, and please pray for us. Δόξα Πατρί και Υιό και Υιό Πνεύματι, και νίκαια και σώνα στην όνομη. Σώσον Κύριε των λαών σου και ευλογήσον τη χειρονομία σου. Νίκας της βασιλεύση κατά βαρβάρων δωρούμενος και τόσων φυλάτων δια του σταυρού σου πολίτες. Διευχών τον Αγίο Πατέρα ημών, Κύριε Ιησού Χριστέ Αυτός ημών, ελέησον και σώσον ημάς. Αμήν.